identified that subset of students who
and would these boys by any chance be Joshua, Shamir, Antonio, potentially Kenneth?
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't in this conversation, but these are by far her lowest students if you're looking at her mastery for math. Every other student is above 80%, except for these 4 kids, and they're all boys.
You're looking at her most up-to-date?
I'm looking at her most up-to-date math tracker.
Okay, the one that says 77.6.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, in reading, these are also the folks who made the least amount of growth. Yeah. Joshua was only 0.3. Most of the other kids are like 0.6 or higher. Kenneth was only 0.45. Shamir was decent in terms of growth, but Antonio, Joshua, Kenneth. Antonio had decent growth too, 0.60. Yeah. But everyone else, everyone else, and this one young lady, Anaya, had significantly lower growth. So it seems like, okay, maybe there is a real thing going on with these 4 kids, particularly Joshua, Shamir, Antonio, and Kenneth. But so that might be a place to start asking questions, because I wonder if. So when you've talked with Ashley, or sorry, Mary, she's talked specifically about these boys. What kinds of things is she saying? What's happening with these
I mean, it's literally like they're calling each other names across the room.
Okay. And
when I'm working with one, and this is something that I've noticed in the group, like she has her kids in like a U shape, and I go in and she's got like her body turned sideways, and there's this group. When I went in, they were just a group of 2 students who were just like consistently like not doing what they should be doing. Mary wasn't addressing it, so I feel like there's some like E4 things, like she's not responding to the minors' behavior, and then like the welcoming environment piece where kids are just calling each other names. That's just like alarming to me. And it's alarming to her too. She's like, she just literally says to me like, they're just mean to each other. They're just so mean to each other, and these are her words. And this is very, very concerning to her, and this is something that she's been working towards, fixing with, things like morning meetings and doing work like that. But that's been like a topic of our conversations she's been here a lot here in the office, and like when I'm talking to her, it's in small conversations and in our longer conversations, she's mentioning this, like, I just don't understand, they're just so mean to each other, they call each other names, they just say horrible things to each other. And so I'm like, at this point of the year, if your kids are, still, I don't know, having these issues, and you're implementing things like morning meeting to talk about supporting each other, etc., like something else needs to be done. And so that's a big piece of her vision that I think is missing. I feel like she's gonna get there academically.
Her overall class mastery, she's, for math at least, and if we believe that the things that she's assessing on is rigorous right now, like mastery seems to be good, right? 78%, and it's gone down from the mid-year to 80%, but like her students seem to be in the place where they'll get there. And then in terms of DRA growth, overall class average is, what does this say? 0.66. So she's behind the pace for her like 1.5-year growth, but they're still on the pace to make over a year of growth. But like, so it seems like she seems to be in a solid enough place, right? But I think these 4 students are concerning.
Yeah, and the thing is, so there's 2 big questions I have, and this is where I think like my skill development needs to happen, and this is also coming from like conversations that I had with Chi and Josh,
which I'll hear more about in a little bit, for sure.
It's like, okay, now I've done the work, we've identified this subset of students, and now I am digging, trying to figure out what exactly is going to push this subset. So with G and Josh, we identify the subsets. With Mary, we can clearly identify a subset of students, and she's academically, and then she's also identified that subset that are holding her back from meeting like cultural goals and her long-term trade goals, you know. So this is right.
So like we can identify the kids, but what do we do with them? Is that the
Exactly.
question? Or what do we do with the teacher and the students?
Exactly. So I want, and that's like my biggest thing. Like I don't want to do actions that waste time. Like I want it to be the right things.
Right.
And so I want to become proficient at like figuring out like what's the right thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Can we do this? Can we make sure that we are talking about the right group of folks? Because I think probably we are, but there's also a couple of things when I look at the DRA data for mid-year, like. So yeah, these 4 kids, these 4 dudes that we just pulled out are all below the class average of 0.66, but there's 2 other students that we did, well, 1 other student that we didn't name who was also below the class average, and that's the Anaya. And I don't actually, yeah. And then there's just 1 student who's missing. Leonte, is he? Oh, he just came in the mid-year.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out how.
And Rashonda just
I actually redid her DRA data for her to show the mid-year growth, but it's not captured here, but that's another point. I redid her tracker for her, but yeah, so she had a couple of students.
So for maybe then for these 2 students that we're not, well, let's pull them out for a second. So it sounds like though we are talking about a group of students and not necessarily just, I just want to make sure we're prioritizing the right things for this teacher right
yes,
now.
We are.
My only other question also is just like when I'm looking at our math tracker and I'm looking at like, clearly she started off struggling in her first couple of units, like they were all in the low 60s, 40s, 18s, that kind of deal. Like she's gotten tremendously better in terms of students mastering the math material. What's led to that? Like, is she just a strong teacher? What has been going on through from basically October through the end of December?
I think those August grades.
Yeah, with a blip in mid-October.
Yeah, I think those August grades that you see, or scores that you see there in red, I think she was getting used to actually the program that she's using with Project Grad Math. And the reason she has those as objectives is like she just wants to capture it there, but that's like the stuff they give for Project Grad, like the skill masteries, pre-assessment, quick check. So yeah, but I would say her strength is backwards planning, and so I think as she's become, really fluent in that process, and then the execution, that is what has led her to success. She's from day 1. Again, she really took the ball rolling with backwards planning. Yeah. So
if we were to pull out then and say, for Mary, you're going to really have a conversation with her. When you meeting with her?
Wednesday.
Okay. So for Mary's conversation, you're trying to walk her through like, here's what your development trajectory is going to look like, right? This phase that you're in right now, you're sort of making sure you're grounded in where is Mary, where are her kids, like what is the key thing that I would want to pull out for her to make sure that we're talking about and we have a strong theory about how we're going to make change happen here. Sounds like we're going to land on these 4 students, but you probably want to spend some time confirming this theory, right? Like, is it really these 4 students and like why, and make sure we feel really confident about what things are happening both in math and reading, and also for the cultural, like these student traits and mindset piece, like what are the pieces of evidence that have mounted up that leads us to believe that we really need to prioritize our time here. But if that's the case, okay, what actually is the change that we want to see happening with these 4 students? I think that's what we need to now arm ourselves with. Like, let's start to think about what would be the change that needs to happen for these kids. And then what does that then mean we need to make sure we build the skill for Mary to do with these 4 kids? And then zoom out another layer, like what does that then mean you need to do for Mary to make sure she's prepared to support these 4 students?